Hello and welcome to the open forum for Microsoft Teams and Office 365, which is now called Microsoft 365 Q&A session. My name is Nathan Austin, and Gerald Howland's on, our CTO, and he'll be helping with any technical questions. And we have Stephanie Kingsley in behind the scenes doing the producing and managing the Q&A, and we'll be monitoring that as we go along here. So welcome everybody to this Friday edition on June 12th. 2020 is the weather's beautiful. It's Friday, so let's dig in and let's have some open Q&A. So what are we trying to do today? Well, the purpose of this session is really just having open questions. One of the things that we've been structuring as we started into the shelter at home, we're doing open forums every week, and we decided, okay, well now that has kind of trailed off a little bit, and that's okay. But we figured out we are now doing a power user session that is going to be one of the first weeks of the month. I would say the first Friday, but next month, the first Friday is July 3rd, which is a holiday. So we're actually going to do it the next Thursday on the 9th. So the power user session next month is on the 9th of July. And then we'll host this session probably the following week. But the point for this session is for team members. It's that everyone else, it's the regular users and the day-to-day operators of these tools, and trying to help you answer whatever questions you might have if you're trying to solve something or if you're stumped on solving a problem that you're trying to solve in your organization. So we're hoping that this is a session where you can invite your team members and just a completely open and candid Q&A where we'll either answer your questions and or demonstrate the answers to your questions in the demo tenant that we have here, the demo account that we have here called Contoso. All right, so as we dig in, we'll talk about what teams, we have some prepared questions to go through, but any questions are on Teams and O365 we can show you. And again, like I said, we have some items here if we run out of questions. So before we do that, I want to talk to you about 1 minute about MyTech. Now, I'm actually going to pause because I want to use this as an illustration relative to a feature in PowerPoint that we just illustrated earlier this week, if you happen to join us. But this slide is one where we actually updated the visuals of it. So, but I hadn't updated this presentation yet. So I figured I'd use it as an illustration of how you can easily grab a slide from another presentation. So, and I will then tell you a little bit about MyTech as we get there. So I'm going to come over here to the slide. And I'm just going to right click, and then I'm going to come up here and use the function that says reuse slides. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then this window is going to pop up over here on the right hand side. Probably, I think it's on your right hand side as well as this is presenting. And I know there was one of the recent ones that we did. It was on PowerPoint. So I'm going to do a quick search, PowerPoint, and go ahead and hit enter. And now it's going to search. Here we go. This is the session that we did where I know we have the updated slide. So I'm just going to come down here and hit on this one. So now it opens up this presentation in kind of a preview mode and allows us to kind of scroll down and say, yep, this is the slide right here. Notice it's the same content, but we actually just did some different visuals. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And there we go, it pops in this slide. So kind of a cool way, if you know that as opposed to like opening up different PowerPoints and going back and forth and navigating through files, it'll actually, you can do a quick search here like I did. I could scroll through the different presentations that we've done. And like I said, and do a quick search. And then once I can, if I want to click into it, I click into the presentation and it previews the slides here. And then I can just pick on the one that I want. Like if I wanted this little PowerPoint, Michael Scott humor, for example. So, so yeah, that was a feature that I want to show you. So I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to delete this slide because I don't want it anymore as we've updated it. So I'm going to just go right back into the PowerPoint and just show you a little bit about MyTech. So that was one of the little tips that we liked when we were going through PowerPoint and some of the ways in which you can enhance how you use PowerPoint. But MyTech, one of the things about MyTech that we want to be clear is we are not a training company. We just really feel like we want to help our clients and the community use the tools that they're paying for. We find out that there's a lot of organizations that they're paying for these tools and they have these tools available to them, but they don't know how to use them. And if they just started using the tools that they're already paying for, they could actually get some better return on investment and hopefully increase communication and collaboration. So that's why we do this. But we are a business and technology consulting company at heart that we only work with small and medium businesses. We only work with companies that are in Minnesota or Colorado. that are within basically an hour drive of our office for the most part. Every once in a while we go outside of that radius, but for the most part, everyone we work with is in one of those geographies. Our goal is to help our clients implement a proven IT strategy, alignment with your goals, but that we know can achieve consistent, proven, reliable results. We also understand that not every business problem is an IT problem. So our goal is to just help remove a lot of the IT problems that you face, really, so you can focus more on serving your customers better and be more adaptable to the other business challenges that inevitably you're facing on a day-to-day basis. You throw all that together, we like to make IT easy for our clients. That's our goal. It doesn't always make it easy for us, and we don't always achieve that. So we invite people to tell us if they feel like we can do something better. It's our opportunity to learn. But you throw all this, the proven strategy, removing IT challenges, enabling you to be more adaptable. We've realized that our clients can achieve 4 times more value and productivity from their IT investments. If you'd like to learn more about that, let us know. Otherwise, that's not why you're here today. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of the presentation, and we are going to start off with a couple tips that I have. But by all means, start using the Q&A panel. Go and start throwing some questions in there, and we'll demonstrate or answer your question as we go through. But I'm going to show you a little something that I found recently that I thought was kind of cool, and I'll go through a couple different items here, and then we'll open it up for questions. Just to get things started. So in Outlook, I don't know, this is an example of an email I just opened, invitation to the Power User Group from last week, or from this coming next month, excuse me. So if I come over here and I hover over these different names, notice it gives me Gerald's profile, but it also gives me this little LinkedIn icon. So I happened to do that the other day and I found that interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. Now, I have already logged in to LinkedIn. So what that does, if you haven't already done it, if you click on that in your own Outlook, again, you could basically, I'll just do this again. If you hover over the profile, so you just hover over it, I'm not clicking anything, I'm just hovering over it. And I move my mouse to LinkedIn and I just click LinkedIn, it's gonna ask you to log in. And say, do you want to share? You know, it'll ask you to log into LinkedIn. You have to accept, say, yep, I want to share between my profile and LinkedIn. Because I know a lot of times when I'm working with people and I'm communicating with people, I like to be connected with them on LinkedIn if it's something that I'm doing. And so this makes it really easy for you to hover over their email, say, oh, see, I'm already connected to Gerald. Great. So that's something that I thought was really cool. Again, you do have to log in the first time once you do it. So now I can hover over Stephanie here. It's gonna give me a LinkedIn. Sometimes it takes a second. So notice when I hover, it already popped up. But so now I click on that, and it is going to search. And so then I get to choose what her profile is if I had it. So so anyway, it's kind of a cool way in which you can see this, see the different emails coming through, and then be able to find the LinkedIn profile and connect with them. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out of that. And now I'll hit on one of the new features inside of Teams. So I'm gonna go to just the Teams channel that you're just going to a Teams chat. One of the new features that came out is that you can actually pop out chats. So there's a couple ways in which you can do that. When you hover over a chat with a person, notice this little box appears and you hover over that so you can pop out the chat. So I can click on this. I'm just gonna go ahead and click. And now it pops out that chat as a separate window from where I was at, which is nice. The other thing that you can do instead of clicking here, which I just found out, that you can also double click on it. So if you double click on the chat, it'll also open up and pop out that window. So this is a couple ways in which, one of the complaints that people had about Teams is that whenever you navigated between Teams or chat windows, it was hard to be able, if you wanted to keep one chat open while you're navigating to another spot, this is a quick and easy way in which you can do that. Again, so I'll show that again. You can either double click on it, or when you hover over it, you can actually see this little pop out and you just click on that and it'll pop it out. So, all right, so I will pause there because I've shown a few things. Got a couple more up our sleeves just in case, but open it up for questions. Stephanie, are there any questions?
Awesome, thanks, Nate. No, there's been no questions published quite yet.
Okay. All right, well, fortunately, I've got a couple more up my sleeve, and Gerald, I would ask you to get ready as well for any thoughts that you might have like to share from content that we've covered recently. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go over to the browser. So I've actually opened up the Edge Chromium browser here. By the way, if you haven't used the new Edge browser, this is what the icon looks like down here. And the reason why we recommend it is it's highly optimized for the Microsoft tools. So being able to use Teams in the browser, for example, it works really well, and a lot of the other Microsoft applications have been really optimized for this new browser. One of the other cool things that you can do with this browser, if you haven't seen this before, is that when you come up here and you click on the breadcrumbs, the little ellipse up here, you can actually, when you have, for instance, we have Teams pulled up here in the browser, I can come down here to apps, and I can actually make this an app. So basically, I pinned this as an application, and I pinned these other ones as apps that are all browser. So basically, I said, hey, Chrome or Edge, I want you to have Microsoft Teams as an app that I can just click on as a shortcut. And so once I've done that, I have this all pinned down here. So if I click on here, it's opening up Teams, but it's opening up in the Edge browser, basically as a window. It looks like Teams, but it's actually in the browser. I've done the same thing for Planner. I've made Planner an app by first opening up in the Edge browser and then saying make app. Make an app, and then it actually pops it up. So it's some cool ways in which you can use the new Edge Chromium browser and possibly create some shortcuts down here, especially when you've got like an app like Planner that is a web browser only application, but you can easily create a shortcut and pin it to your taskbar. So a couple little tips there with the Edge Chromium browser. I'll go ahead and minimize that. And then one of the other things I wanted to show, if you go into Teams, there's a new feature that and you might have seen this already depending on how many Teams meetings you're on, but I'm going to go ahead and do a demo inside this. I'm going to hit Meet Now. I'm going to do Test Meeting. Now I'm doing this in the web browser specifically because I can't do it in the Teams app because we're presenting the session in the Teams app. But you'll notice a couple features. One of them is this raise hand feature. The reason why I like this and have it open up over here is when I click on this, you'll see it. If I had my video turned on, which I don't, you'll see the raise hand up here, which is kind of cool. And you'd see it if they had the different images that were up, you would actually see a little hand icon on their picture too. So it's one of the ways to, because sometimes when you're having a multi-person Teams meeting, it's difficult to be able to know and interject and interrupt just because of the nature of the way conference call type technology works or video conferencing works, but using the raise hand feature is cool. The other thing that you can do, let's say if somebody else had raised their hand, anyone on the team can actually then basically click on the ellipse and you can lower the hand. I'm the organizer, so I can't do it there. I have to come down here and click on it. But as somebody else on the team could have easily come up and clicked lower my hand in case I just kept it up on accident. So that's one of the new features. You've probably already seen the new 9x9 or the 3x3, excuse me. So you see 3 images by 3 images, so up to 9 images on the screen. And it was also recently announced that Teams is going to be rolling out 7x7. So you'll be able to get up to 49 images on the screen. I don't know exactly the timeline on that, but sometime in the coming couple months. So it's cool that Teams is continually adapting as more and more people are using this for connectivity now. So, okay, you've probably also seen it, but I'm going to show it again one more time just in case, is if you go into the breadcrumbs here or the ellipse, the other thing you can do, and I don't see it here, it looks like I can't do it in the browser, but you can do, let me see if I can do it in the actual Teams window here. Sorry, Gerald, I'm going to pop it up. Stephanie, hi. So I'm going to open up the browser here, but in here, there's Stephanie and Gerald. So in here, I can actually show background effects. And so that's one of the things I can do for my video. If I want to, you can also upload your custom images. So if I wanted to pretend I'm in a classroom, I can do that. And come here, actually have to minimize this. Now it looks like I'm in the classroom, so you can see that on my video. So that's one of the cool features that just that's come out recently as well, and you can upload a custom image too, right up here. So, all right, so I'll get out of this screen so that Stephanie and Gerald didn't expect to be on camera today necessarily, but thank you for being there. So that's a couple of the things I had as far as popping out chats, raising the hand, the 7x7 images, as well as the background effects. So Gerald, do you have any questions come through? Stephanie or Gerald, do you have any thoughts or tips to walk through?
Yeah, I got one. If you want to go back to your team meeting that you started in the browser.
Yep.
I think it's in your app version down there.
Yeah, there we go. Yep.
So I joined your meeting. What happens if you close this, if you exit out of this meeting? Does that meeting close out?
Good question. So I'm going to hang up. Is that what you want me to do?
Yep. Go ahead and hang up.
Okay. I'll go ahead and hang up.
You notice that because I'm also in the meeting, that meeting stays operational, right? So you've exited out, but that meeting is still going. What happens if you wanted to actually force close that meeting?
That is a good question. I don't know how to do that.
Go ahead and join the meeting again.
Okay. Better turn off my audio though. There we go.
Okay. And then click on the ellipsis down on the control bar there.
Okay.
And you see the end meeting? Yep. Go ahead and click that.
Oh, very cool.
That's a new feature that was added just recently in Teams also. So now you can actually force end the meeting. Great if you're doing recordings, or if you have somebody who had to walk away from their desk and you don't want that meeting just sitting out there for a while. You can just say, if you were to click end meeting, that ends it for any participants in that meeting.
That is a great tip, Gerald, because that was one of the things I was thinking about. Is a tip that I've had happen in meetings is we were recording a meeting, and then the problem with the recording is that as the person responsible for doing the recording, I hit hang up, but someone forgets to hang up, and so the recording persists. It just keeps going until you get that to end. So that was one of the tips I was going to suggest, is make sure you stop your recording before you end, or it looks like you can just end meeting, which is pretty cool. I did not know that. That is a new capability. Yeah, yep. Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty cool. All right, Stephanie, any questions come through?
There isn't, but I know in the past we've been asked, one of the challenges with Teams as well is, for instance, when you're going back and forth between different channels and teams, or even in the same channel, the different tabs you could cover. I know we've covered this in the past, but how to pop out those different tabs into their own web browsers and things like that really easily, so that you're not going back and forth in Teams all the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. So
can I interject on this?
Please.
I'm going to show you a neat trick, and this should work in the browser app also. But you have the back arrow up in the upper left-hand corner of your Teams. The very
here.
Yep. So if you actually do that, that's actually going to flip between your last message or last program that you were in. So if you're flipping between multiple chats, multiple teams, flipping back and forth, you can actually go forward and backwards just through your history of what teams or chat messages you've been in.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So nice, thank you. I don't know if I've used that before. One of the things that where I run into answering that question, Stephanie, or where I found that useful, is when I run department meetings. When I've had a department meeting, I like to use I have this meeting agenda notes here, and I have some to-dos and action items. So one of the things that I like to do is I usually keep this one, the meeting agenda notes, here present. But then as I click on these other ones, I will come over here to this web icon, and I will just click on this, which go to website. So I will open up these different tabs basically in the browser. And then if I want to issues discussion list, so if I'm the department manager coming into the meeting, I always come in a little early, or whomever is running the meeting, come in a little early, and I get these all set up. So I open up these different items in the browser, so that as we're going through our meeting, I can actually then get them ready to go. So these are just some metrics, for example, but let's see if I can, this is another one I can pull up Power BI and just open that up in the browser as well. So that's one of the things that I do when I come into meetings, is I'll come in and it's interesting, it didn't log me in the browser there. Why did it not sign me in? There it goes. Okay, so but I'll come into the Teams meeting, so this will be my agenda, and as I go through our agenda, as we walk through the different areas where we're having personal, professional, best, we're having conversations and dialogue, you know, and then we hit on metrics and goals. Instead of popping up over here, which then I have to flip back and forth between the tabs, I'll actually come into the browser. And so I'm in metrics. Great. I'm going to pull up our Power BI. Here's where our metrics are. Right, this is where I can pull that up in the Power BI, or that could be an Excel spreadsheet that you could open up in the browser if that's something that, if that's what you've used for your organization versus Power BI. But you can easily get an Excel spreadsheet into Power BI, and then I'll pop back into Teams and go down the edge of action items. Great. So I'm going to pull up in my browser. I go to action items, and now we'll talk about these action items, and we'll get rid of these action items. The next agenda item is issue discussion. So we'll get over to issue discussion. For those of you who are familiar with EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, or the book Traction, or Get a Grip. Both of those books are about the EOS system, and this methodology is very much aligned to that, where you have issues and discussion, or IDS as it's called in Traction. This is basically our L10 meeting format, if you know the Traction lingo and language. And one of the reasons why we like being able to use the issue discussion list is because it allows us to sort and filter in SharePoint by date, by who submitted, have a longer description, and you can have a conclusion. So that way you can note, hey, we agreed to bring our existing monitors home. Because sometimes you might bring up something again and you find out, oh gosh, I forgot what we talked about. I forgot where the conclusion that we reached. So we can keep track of all of that. Notice these are completed, but we can keep track of the answers that we had, so we don't have to rehash stuff as part of your L10 meeting. So that's one of the things we like to do is and build this out. So you build it out in tabs, so it's really with one click accessible, but so you're not having to pop back and forth. Set yourself up for success in the first 5 minutes of a meeting and pop those up into a browser tab, and you'll be able to execute your meeting pretty seamlessly. The other thing I really like about this too that I found as a final tip relative to kind of running a department meeting is that doing it this way, if you as the department manager or leader are not available for whatever reason, you're on PTO or you have another meeting conflict, you know, this actually sets your team up for you to be able to ask someone from your team to run the meeting. They can come in, log into Teams, and they can run through the agenda because you've already built it out. They can access these notes and have them available, and they can go through all this information. So your team can hold their team meeting, and you can have someone on your team actually do the facilitation even when you're not there. And so it helps your team relate to running and facilitating meeting, which I always think is a good experience. And it also just helps them get the value out of the meeting and make sure that the sharing continues and the review, your weekly review continues, even if you might not be able to make it as the department leader. So, all right, I'll pause again for any other thoughts or questions that we might be able to run through.
There's no questions in there, but I was going to add to that. There's a feature in the Edge Chromium browser called Collections that can even help with that further. So if you had all those tabs like you have there, you could actually hover over the ellipsis over on the right and go down to Collections. Yep, and you would click that, and then you could name, like if this was weekly department meeting, you could create a new one and say weekly department meeting, create that collection, and then once that's created, I think, do you have to go down? Or yep, there you go. You add your first page. Now you click on the next tab, you add that page. And then that way, once you've added all the pages to that collection, you can then just go up to your collections and kind of launch all of those pages at once. So you wouldn't even have to go through Teams to open them up.
That is great. I totally forgot about that, Stephanie. But that's one of the cool things. So, all right, so I'm going to close that out. I'm going to try this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this whole window, and let's try and see if we can open that back up. Of course, it's a demo, so it's not going to work. So I'm going to set the expectation that it's not going to work, but we're going to try it. All right, so I'm going to click on Edge down here. Notice completely blank. Come up to the ellipses. Actually, I think this is the tab you can do here.
It might be there, yep.
You can do the ellipses and come down to collections, or you can just click right up here. So I'm going to click there, and it gives me my option of weekly department meeting. Click that.
I think yep.
Just click on them here. So interesting. So that just creates on the it does. I didn't know whether or not. Oh, that's interesting. It just creates shortcuts. So when you click on them, it just opens them up.
There was one I saw. Maybe.
I wonder if you can do it this way.
You can open all.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know how that works. I haven't played with this a lot.
I believe that there is, if you unselect, if you go to the ellipsis, I think you can.
Oh, open all. Yeah.
Open all. Yep.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Opens all.
Yeah, that's what I would like to be able to do. So good. So you can have different collections up here. I know, Stephanie, that's something that you talked about before when we have a monthly meeting, part of our organization, where we kind of cascade, give department updates to the rest of the organization. Like, here's what the marketing team has been doing and our results. And so there's several things reports that we go through that are web-based reports, and we can and that you built out a collection for being able to do that. So as opposed to having to open them up every time. So yeah, kind of a cool capability. And those are things that, again, in the Edge Chromium browser, it's and that's the new one. So it's not the E or the other E looking one that's the old either Internet Explorer or Edge. You can actually just go out to Microsoft, and as long as the icon, this is the icon that you see, you know that that's the new browser, and these capabilities exist. So great tip, Stephanie. I totally forgot about that. All right. Let's see if I've got anything else here. One of the things that I'll just go into PowerPoint again, because one of the things I feel that is really cool in PowerPoint is that there's actually some, if you're trying to learn about how to do better PowerPoint presentations, there's actually and this is part of the subscription version. It's something you have to be aware of. So this is a subscription version of PowerPoint, meaning I get the license through my Office 365 subscription. You actually have, that gives you some tips. So I'm going to click on like this one, for example, and I'll hit create. And when you find that tip, it actually gives you some tips on here's how to do some cool stuff. How to use the PowerPoint Designer, which is the design ideas that you see up here. How do you do, so this is couple different ways to do the designer. Use the new capability that's morph. Again, this is only available in, only available in the subscription feature, for example. But it's kind of cool being able to do something like this. There's different ways. It teaches you just different ways to do it, and all you have to do is click up here and say File, and then as if you're going to open, and you can open up these kind of tutorials right here, or you can open up different themes, and then of course over here there's more themes, and there's lots of different themes you can use when you're building out content. So if you haven't tried those, it works really well. And if you already have an existing PowerPoint presentation like ours, for example, it's one of the things you can do. So I'll just click on here and use this as an illustration. Oops, I need to not be in the presentation mode, I'm sorry. So I'm going to get rid of the reuse slides. But notice as I've selected this slide, all the way up here in this corner is this Design Ideas button. So I can just click Design Ideas, and it actually pops up. Here's different. That's not a really great example. It didn't do a very good job on that one. Let me try this one. You know, it usually does a better job. I'm going to do a new slide. I'm just going to do something. So new slide, and then new content. Let's point number 2, this or that. So you kind of get the idea. You can build out the content, but then when you come up design, then you can say, oh, well, I kind of like this. So in the design ideas, it gives you some different design ideas there, or no, I think I like this one a little bit better. And then what I've also found, if you like this theme, but you don't exactly like exactly what it looks like, I'll click away from the slide and then I'll click back to it. And it'll actually give me design ideas based on this theme. So now you see that it's got similar, but it's, green options, blue options, just icons versus icons with circles, pictures, etc. So some cool ways in which you can use the design ideas inside of Teams, and all based on just, sometimes you'll get this too, like no design ideas for this because of based on how we've already built out a lot of design in here. But as you're building out content, it's something that you can really, by clicking on design ideas, it does a lot of the work for you, which is great, because I am not a creative person when it comes to building PowerPoint presentations. And so this has been a total lifesaver for me, being able to use themes and these design ideas. So last thing I'll say about design ideas is that they moved it so it's available here in the home and you have to be on the current version, and I think it's a subscription-only version that gives you the design ideas. You can also come up to the design menu, and in the design menu you have themes available, but then the design ideas is also over here in the corner. So really cool little tips and tricks. And one of the tips that I've recommended is build out your outline of content first, kind of like I did for this slide. And then once you're ready to look at the design, then pop over here, hit design ideas, and see what you, maybe what design you like. So,
yeah,
cool.
Hey, Nate?
Yeah.
I was just going to add that, so the design ideas, one of the other unique things about design ideas is it's also context aware. So if you actually look at your point one kind of things, it's actually identifying icons and images. So it does actually, like, it's using the built-in Microsoft artificial intelligence processing to actually start building some context aware. So it's going to start recommending images, icons, all that kind of stuff that are all based around the language that you use. So sometimes even just changing the language, if you used a different word other than point, it might actually give you different suggestions. So definitely something to think about while you're using.
Yeah, and I was going to also add, you can customize that too. So if you found that particular style that you liked, but maybe you didn't like that particular icon, you can click on the icons and look for and switch out the icon. As well as, like, in the design, you can switch the colors. So if you were like, hey, I like this layout, but I don't like this color, you can customize them further.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't even know you could do it. Oh wow.
So
I did not even know you could do that.
To the next level.
I love it. That's very cool. So all I did, so that's great. Good tip, Stephanie. So you click on here, and it'll open up. You click on the icon. So I'm gonna close that out. Click on the icon, or right click on the icon. How did I do that before?
I think you clicked on the content first.
There you go. So you can change icon there. So that's kind of some cool ideas. But once you click on it, you can do the style. Well, wait, how did that work, Stephanie? Because I just
click on the actual, like, whole content box, so like the words.
That's interesting. I'm trying to get back to the screen that I had previously, but if you change shape.
If you click on the actual box, like click out of it.
Yeah.
And then click on the box. Nope, not the word.
Like the word here?
Yeah, I thought if you clicked it.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's where that was is I swear I just clicked on it.
Did you double click on it?
Maybe that was it. Oh, here's where it gives me the options up here. Here's where it goes. It's giving me some options up here, which is kind of cool from a design perspective. So it does pop it up here, the smart design. So it looks like when you click on it, it gives you the smart design. That's one of the things that's unique about PowerPoint I found, is that notice that menu doesn't even exist up here, but once I click into it, it gives it new menus pop up. And that also happens when you click into videos. You have to click on the video if you want to edit like some of the content or how the video works. So as far as choosing the different kind of ideas. So very cool. Anyway, that's awesome. Great stuff. I kind of like the 3D effect there. So, well, with that said, if there's no other questions, let's pause one last time, see if there's any questions.
No questions, no.
All right. Well, we hope that, we want this to be a session where we're not just coming up with stuff to share. These are tips and tricks that we've found and that we've learned, and there's always more to learn. Like I said, I learned several things on this session, but this session is for you, not for me. Really love to invite folks as far as if there's anything that they'd like to ask, if they're running into any challenges, whether it be with Planner or with To-Do or with Teams or SharePoint or OneDrive, Sway, Power, any of these things, we're here to be able to answer and ask these questions for you and hopefully help you get beyond any obstacles that you may be facing. So thanks for joining us. If there's any nuggets of things you'd like to take away today, I do suggest and encourage you to write them down. At least put a couple of them down as far as something you'd like to try. And if you have the opportunity sometime in the next couple days, try and take advantage of it, at least so it can sinks in a little bit, so you don't lose that short-term memory that we all have. And then join us for future sessions. Next week's session is actually on basically using SharePoint to hold and execute a secure board of directors meeting, whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, you know, that information that's typically shared with the board is highly confidential and highly sensitive. And so how can you share information without emailing confidential information? How can you use SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams to be able to hold the meeting as well as share the information that's pertinent for holding a board meeting? So join us next Tuesday and stay tuned as we have a whole nother lineup of sessions coming up that'll take us into August. So thanks a lot for attending today. I hope you have an excellent day, an excellent weekend. It's going to be beautiful out there, and take care of each other. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.